Hello, this is Heidi Meyers, immigration attorney. I wanted to make something of a public service announcement on immigration fraud. It's very unfortunate that certain individuals get caught up in immigration fraud. Certain people who might be here undocumented, with no work authorization, or individuals who have status but maybe they don't have work authorization, or they're worried about their status ending, very unfortunately might decide to commit immigration fraud. Now, the fact that the individuals committing immigration fraud and it's out of good intentions really doesn't make a difference in it being considered fraud. So everybody wants to feed their family. Everyone wants to be a good provider and take care of their family. But even though an individual might have good intentions, as I said, it's still fraud, and it still would end up most likely being a permanent bar to any sort of immigration benefit in the future unless you are eligible for a very limited waiver. So certain people might be in a circumstance where they feel desperate, and taking actions out of desperation is never good. And then they might talk to other individuals who act as though they know everything and they're so smart, and why don't you do this? You know, other people do it too. And they act as if they're the expert on everything and they know everything. And they might try to convince you to do something that is fraudulent or illegal. So you never want to make those kinds of decisions. You never want to act out of desperation. If you are feeling overly stressed or you start feeling desperate, the best thing to do is to take a break, relax, and calm yourself down, and do not act out of desperation. Acting out of desperation, you're generally going to make the wrong decision. So the first thing is you don't want to do it. You don't want to get involved in it in the first place. People who commit fraud are often clever, but it is not smart. You are assuming that you're more intelligent or you're smarter and you can outwit the federal government, which is not a proper assumption. All right? Now, under the Immigration and Nationality Act, there is a bar to admissibility under 212A6CI. So that is a ground of inadmissibility for fraud or willful misrepresentation of a material fact in obtaining admission or some type of immigration benefit. So this is a very broad grounds of fraud, and it includes not just fraud when you're applying for a visa, when you're trying to enter the United States. It also includes all other types of immigration fraud, and it includes as well trying to get a job or filling out an I-9 and saying that you're a permanent resident when you really don't have documents. So it's a very broad ground of inadmissibility for immigration fraud. And it doesn't matter if it was a long time ago, it does not go away. So the ground of inadmissibility for immigration fraud does not just go away because a long time has passed. So immigration is not like criminal law. In criminal law, most criminal acts have what's called a statute of limitations. So if 5 years are gone, 7 years have gone by, you're no longer criminally liable. But with immigration, in general, there's no statute of limitations. So even if the fraud was a long time ago, you can still be found inadmissible for fraud under the Immigration and Nationality Act. There is a limited waiver for immigration fraud under 212A6CI. So the fraud waiver is Immigration and Nationality Act Section 212I, but it is quite limited. So to waive fraud, you have to show that you have a spouse or parent who is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident and who would suffer extreme hardship if you were deported from the United States. So U.S. citizen children are not qualifying relatives. So if you have committed fraud, immigration fraud, and you have U.S. citizen children, but your spouse or parent is not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, you do not have a fraud waiver. So the waiver is very limited. And as I said, it's not just that you have a qualifying relative. You have to show extreme hardship to that relative if you were deported or if you could not stay in the United States. So just because you're eligible for a waiver doesn't mean the waiver is going to be granted. There are a lot of factors involved. There's a balancing, and so just because you're eligible doesn't mean you're going to be granted a waiver, and many people are not even going to be eligible for a waiver because they don't have that qualifying relative. As I said, U.S. citizen children are not qualifying relatives. So another ground of inadmissibility for immigration fraud is for marriage fraud. So there's a particular bar when someone has committed marriage fraud under 204C, which is there's no waiver for marriage fraud, and there's a permanent bar on any sort of immigration petition in the future. So if you are found by USCIS or Department of Homeland Security to have committed immigration fraud, there is no waiver. All right. The only possible solution is if it was a mistake. Sometimes the U.S. citizen spouse might have gotten very stressed out, or they might have been pressurized into signing some sort of paper or something, and it was a big mistake. The U.S. citizen spouse can refile and hopefully prove that the marriage was a genuine marriage, not for immigration purposes. Other than that, there's no waiver. So it doesn't matter if later on you have a genuine marriage, later on you have a business here, you have children here, all that good stuff does not count, and there's no waiver for the marriage fraud. All right, so as I said, I wanted to do a little public service announcement that the consequences to immigration fraud are very, very severe. They don't go away. There is no statute of limitations. The availability of waivers is very limited. There are a couple of other waivers besides the 212I that I won't go into now, 237A1H for permanent residents who were inadmissible at entry, and there's also another waiver. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all that now. Like I said, I just wanted to make sort of a general video on this topic, and that's about it. So for today, that's it. This is Heidi Meyers, immigration attorney, Law Office of Heidi J. Meyers, 11 Broadway, Suite 925, New York, New York, 10004. You can reach me at 212-791-4007, or 646-508-5225. And my email is heidimeyerslaw@gmail.com. All right, so that's it for today. And we might explore more of these topics of inadmissibility and possible waivers, including for fraud, in later videos. All right, so don't hesitate to give me ideas for topics for more videos if you are interested in a particular topic, and I can make a video about it. All right, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.